Michigan State plays Maryland this weekend in a game of football. And yes, we got a fun guest joining us to guide us through the tunnel into the light. Let's go.
Are Locked On Spartans, your daily podcast on the Michigan State Spartans, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
The greatest people of all time. Yes, that is you, the listeners and viewers of Locked On Spartans. Hey, simmer down over there, please. All right, we'll get to you in a minute. Today's episode is brought to you by Underdog. Sign up on UnderdogFantasy.com with the promo code Locked On and get your first deposit doubled up to $100. Folks, MSU is 2-2 this season. They have been kind of lambasted the last 2 weeks, but in our darkest times, we seek whatever light we can find, and this light is provided to us by a man that is behind an avatar of Ryan Fitzpatrick dressed up like a 70s porn star. He goes by Wil Hunter. That's right, folks. Wil Hunter back on the show. Will, old friend, how you doing, man? You doing okay?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Okay, that's awesome. Great. Hey,
why did you call on me for light?
Who else am I going to call on? Like, you always just are there for us. Here's the thing, Will, like, you're never on schedule, but you're always on time. Like, you just know when to show up, and you text me, hey, I'll show up next week. And this was before the Minnesota game even started. And, hey, here you are.
I just had a feeling.
You had a hunch, and unfortunately that hunch paid off as Michigan State lost only 34-7, excuse me. But
yeah,
here we are
right.
Going into a game in College Park this weekend. Will, I'm just going to ask you a simple question. We'll see how long this answer goes, but what do you want to see this Saturday for Michigan State?
What do I want to see?
Yeah, just what do you want to see? What do you want to see? That's it. That's all I got for you.
Like Gruff Sparty helmet would be cool.
Okay, awesome. There we go. So, because I think I'm in the middle of the stages of grief right now where look,
sure.
Anger, denial has already passed. Now I'm at the bargaining stage where I think I'd just be okay losing the game by single digits at this point. Like, yes, would I still be irritated on Saturday? Of course I will be, but at the end of the day, I could be like, okay, steps were taken forward in a road game. This is good. Or is that, am I being too dramatic, Will? Because this is one thing that we were really good at, is me just having a constant meltdown and you playing therapist, so to speak. So is that fair?
I would accuse you of many things. I would never accuse you of being too dramatic.
Thank you. All right, there we go. That's good that we're on the record with that now. So I'm going to tally that on the board for me over here. Let's get into it.
Yeah, let's level.
Let's try. We'll try.
Michigan State is going to Maryland as an 8.5-point dog, I believe.
Yeah.
Last check. Open. What did it open at? Do you remember?
I think it was 7 on the dot. BetOnline had it at 7. So yeah, regardless, a touchdown is what we'll call it.
There was some. I think maybe it was early lines. Circa opened it, I think, at 4.5 or something.
Oh, jeez. Wow.
Yeah, and so it is steadily climbed away from the Spartans in terms of shifting it, trying to get anyone. Just please, they're out there spinning signs on South Las Vegas Boulevard. Bet the Spartans, please. We need to balance these books, please.
Yeah.
So when you're in that spot, like this isn't Penn State. This isn't Ohio State.
No, not necessarily.
This isn't Michigan. This is not one of the teams we like to think of as hey, this is a nationally top 20 program. This is the team that's going to win 8+ games most years. We're going to go on the road and it's going to be tough. No, this is Maryland, Matt. Maryland.
Yeah.
The Dirty Terps.
Yeah.
This is the team, the program, not the team, the program. This is the program that Michigan State went to in 2018 when they could not do anything remotely positive on the offensive side of the ball, and went there and still won 28-7. And Connor Hayward had like an 80-yard touch. Like,
Yeah, just
it's like, oh,
work them.
thank God that you're like struggling and slugging. You look up, you're like, we're going to Maryland. Thank God.
Yeah.
Thank God we're going to Maryland. Well,
I know.
Well,
I know. Yeah, like look, because like usually the Maryland medicine like hits in November, like that's usually when the game is, and by then like they are long checked out, and that's what's been like beating me up all summer. I know, and like look, I was a little weary looking at this game in the summer too, and that's before I knew like Michigan State was going to have this many struggles, have this many key players that are hurt, and now it's like, oh boy, Maryland actually looked somewhat okay last weekend against Michigan. Like, look, one of the things that we want to see from Maryland, like I still want to see Maryland be full Maryland, like be the team that has the football bounce off your face mask on the opening kickoff, drop that wide open third down catch like they did, fall asleep on 4th and 1. Like, we just need Maryland to look at their jerseys and realize that they are Maryland and that they're just like they're the human form of a 6-6 team. Like that's just who we need to play on Saturday.
It's a great place
to be. Michigan State can beat that team, though.
Yeah, it's a great place for your program to be heading to a program that's trying to rid itself of that stink. Like Maryland's like, can we please win 8 games? Can we be something more than what we've been? And you're going to that program to play them on their turf, and you're just like hoping, please don't be that team yet. Please still be Maryland that's going to just absolutely screw this up in a hilarious fashion. That's just a wonderful place for your football program. Just praying for the downfall of another program so you can get a win. Yeah. I will say, it's great. Watching Maryland against Michigan, I was rooting so hard for Maryland, not because I wanted to see Michigan lose. I actually bet Michigan to cover. Yeah. I was rooting so hard for Maryland because I wanted an indicator that the schedule – whatever, that they were going to transform, right? That we need an indicator point, and you can find it in Maryland season where you go, oh, it's time for them to be Maryland again.
Exactly. Time for them to start checking out of every game, just get into December, going on break. Yeah.
And there's nothing that would be more Maryland football the last 15 years than beating Michigan on the road.
Yep.
With just like an amazing win, coming home and falling flat on your face as a 9-point favorite against Michigan State. That's just like drunk, stumbling, one leg missing. Dear God, help us. And just
losing, a little drunk.
Losing 34-7 to that team somehow. that would just I needed it. And I was like, that's going to happen. Come on, Terps. But now they're motivated. Like, we can hang with Michigan. We're good. We can do it. But they still want blood because they didn't get that taste. They didn't get the victory. So close. So catch a kickoff and you win.
Just catch a kickoff. That's not asking a lot. That's not asking a lot.
No, bare minimum. Bare minimum. The guys. It's not like it stuck you back there. In theory, they stuck a guy back there who should be pretty adept at A, catching, and then B, running through some traffic and getting good yardage on a kickoff. In theory, they're not lacking for talented players, so you would think they could get someone. But no, they threw you back there.
Once again, it's Maryland. Before he tried to catch the ball, he looked at the 10 players in front of him, and they were all wearing Terrapin helmets. And he's like, oh, that's right, I play for Maryland. Bonk.
Yeah.
Right off the face mask.
What state flag is my helmet made out of? Ah, that's right.
Oh, that's right. We're gonna go 6-6 this year again. We're not gonna stun the world in the big house right now. We're gonna step on every rake possible that we can step on. Yeah. It's great. So
Matt, you can't lose 6 games without losing one. So you got to lose one.
Amen. And why not 2 this weekend? Well, I have an internal dilemma right now because, look, okay, and this is really going to take a turn here. No one is going to know where I'm going with this next, but obviously Hurricane Ian is ravishing, the eastern side of the country.
What?
Yeah, you like that setup here? That rain and wind could blow up to Maryland in College Park. The forecast is calling for 15 to 25 mile an hour winds, nothing but rain. That's going to limit Maryland's passing game. Okay, and Michigan State's run defense you feel good about. The game's going to be on the ground. This gives Michigan State the better chance to win. So does this mean that I'm pro
Hurricane?
I don't want it to come out like that, but I fear that I can't unpaint myself out of this corner here, that I have to root for horrible weather in College Park this weekend for Spartans to have a shot.
Well, it's technically not a hurricane. anymore.
Okay. That helps. That helps my talking
Yeah.
points. Okay, that's good.
Yeah,
That's good.
tropical storm. It could be a hurricane by the
storm.
time it hits South Carolina, which it's slated to do soon.
We'll see.
Um,
Okay.
So your boy jumped on that Clemson NC State under.
That's not taking advantage of anything. That's just called a financial opportunity taken.
That's the market,
yep.
baby. It was
That's
low.
the
I was like,
market.
that's super low. Oh yeah, hurricane.
Yeah.
DJ Uyunglele. Yeah, let me jump on that.
Do you know if there's anyone that can throw the ball through gale force window, it is DJ Uyunglele. Like that man throws a 5-yard slant route with the same speed he throws like a 50-yard go route. This thing is coming 85 miles an hour off his hand regardless.
It's
so
like,
I don't know.
It's like loading a football into a rocket launcher, just an air to ground Stinger missile.
So I don't know. The logic might actually somehow fail, but I digress. Back to the state game and rooting
the
for
who?
The state game, the Michigan State football Spartans.
Playing?
Yeah. Saturday, 3:30 p.m. on Fox Sports 1, Will. Actually, do you know what? Hey, let's pause here. We'll get to more about the game, just the program as a whole. But first, I got to talk to people's ears off really quick about Underdog Fantasy, Will. I'm just going to click off your little avatar right now. Sorry. Gang, Underdog Fantasy, they're here to make your game days fun, whether it's Saturdays with college, Sundays with NFL, because it is the best way to do daily fantasy. It's sensational. Oh, and by the way, this episode is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy, the easiest place to spice up college football season. Sorry, I missed that note right at the top. All right, it's very easy to play. In my pick'em for this weekend, for example, I have picked under 241.5 passing yards for Peyton Thorne, over 71.5 rushing yards for Jalen Berger, over 51.5 receiving yards for Jaden Reed, and also for Maryland, over 71.5 rushing yards for Roman Hemby. That's $5 to win 50 smackaroos. That's right. It is so easy. And also, what's better than ease? Well, how about just money? Underdog Fantasy is here to give you some sweet cash. Sign up with the promo code LOCKEDON. That's all one word, locked on. And Underdog will double your first deposit up to $100. That's right. Deposit $100, get $100 for free with promo code LOCKEDON. All one word. Go to UnderdogFantasy.com or find the Underdog Fantasy app in the App Store or the Google Play Store. That's Underdog Fantasy, promo code LOCKEDON. It's all one word. For deposit 100, get up to 100 for free. Get in on the college football pick'em action today. One more time, gang, Underdog Fantasy. And as we welcome back the wonderful Wil Hunter, that's right. Hey, thank you so much for making Locked On Spartans your first listen every single day here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Will, who has the better shot of thriving here on Saturday? Is it going to be the offense or is it going to be the defense? It's kind of really weather dependent question, I think, because if it is as bad as the weather, sounds like it's going to be, I think it's going to be the defense. But if it's not, then I don't know. It's not like Maryland's defense is anything to write home about. So who should I have faith in, Will? Just tell me. That's probably the easier way to ask that question.
It's good to know that despite doing this for a year by yourself, you still can't do a live read.
I did get tripped up on the very first sentence of that live read. Yeah, so
forgot a part. Got to go back.
Sorry to our friends at Underdog Fantasy. Promo code Locked On, all one word. But we got it. We got it eventually.
You're good.
It's a winding road.
What was your question? Oh, who do we have more faith in? I don't know.
Great. Okay.
That's
okay.
So that's a fun thing about watching the reaction. And fun's in air quotes there.
Big time. Yeah.
Fun thing about watching the reaction to the first half last week, right? Went into halftime and it was just a completely one-sided, just embarrassing affair. But at the same time, it was 17-0. And we're not going to write home about giving up 17 points and a half, because if you double that, that's 34. That's not great. But it's not good. It's not 28 and a half. It's not, 24 and a half. It's not something where it's like, okay, this thing's over. And if the offense had just had a sign of a pulse, not even a
just
full
something,
pulse,
just something,
just a sign of a pulse. In that game, if you play that half, we've done this a million times across every single sport. You have a half where you're like, holy crap, we couldn't play any worse. How are we only down 10? That's a victory.
Yeah, right.
And if it was 17-10 or 17-7 going into halftime, there would have been like a much more formidable regroup vibe, I think, just like, okay, it's a 10-point game. It can't get worse than it was in that half. Although maybe it could. We're sort of at that mental space right now where it's like, I don't know if I believe that this will get worse.
I know.
But still,
I know.
Like one touchdown drive is not asking a lot out of an offense in a half, and they had like 6 total yards or something. Like, so I think they ended up with like 60 total yards in the first half.
2 straight 3-and-outs to start the game too, which was just awesome.
Woo! So you're down 14-0 in a snap.
Yeah.
But, if it's 17-7 or something going into halftime, then it's just a totally different feeling. You're like, okay, maybe we can make something out of this. But it wasn't. It was 17-0. And because the defense has been such a scarring issue, there was the comments were 10-1 on defense versus offense. And it was just like, hey, can we also get mad at the offense too? Like, I know we're really focused on Scotty and the defensive backfield and all that, but it's like, the offense kind of stinking up the joint here too. But I guess I would have more faith in them to sort of rebound despite struggles at the quarterback position for much of the season. The running backs having a tough go of it, we'll say. And then
either not getting holes or when there is a hole, not hitting it. And that's just not me being a cranky fan. Like, that's Mel Tucker saying that as well during the press conference. It's not good.
If you go back and rewatch slowly and try to pick apart, okay, why was this a 1-yard gain? Half the time it's because it wasn't blocked right. Half the time it's because the running back ran into a defensive tackle instead of through the forward hole, which has been a problem before. I guess before Elijah Collins kind of took over, because he had some decent vision. He's just not at all an explosive guy. He can get it done in terms of like, he'll go to the right place, thankfully.
Yeah. You can count
but like, it's like Kenneth Walker sort of made up his own things and found his own holes magically. But it's been something that's been lacking at Michigan State, just like a running back with proper vision. And they're kind of lacking it this year. And then the offensive line is an inconsistent unit that if you're grading them out on a curve, it's like, okay, they're average. They were average last year. They're average again this year. So all that said, I would still have a little bit more faith in the offense bouncing back. The skill talent is really good when Thorne can properly distribute it. Jaden Reed's really good. Keon Coleman's special. Trey Mosey's a good player. A couple tight ends that can do some things. Running back, like, it can work. You can score 30 with the offense. The defense is just such a mash unit combined with Mopey Eeyore crew. Like, it's just
that's a good way to put it.
There's no confidence.
Way to put it. No, why would there be? Like, why would there be confidence? Like,
it's hard to blame them for not feeling like we're gonna go out and shut these guys down. So they're in a bad spot, mentally, physically, schematically, I guess, spiritually, everything.
Schematically,
just a bad spot. I'm really interested to actually see, like, when Mel Tucker says, I'm gonna throw my 2 cents in there. We're gonna change some things up, but I'm not gonna tell you what. I'm actually curious to see, like, are we gonna change things up? I've heard. I won't say specific names or anything. I heard there will be some personnel shifting around in terms of the starting group, but as we've seen before, starting group doesn't mean playing 90% of the snaps group. Like, guys are rolling in and out because one series, Kimbrough's getting torched and he's on the bench, and then they put Justin White in and he gets torched. And like, all right, Kimbrough, you go back. It's like,
give it another try.
Another go. So who knows? But I think they're going to try some different things. Hopefully, I'm interested to see kind of what that will be, because despite all of it, Matt, there are things that they can do to be better on that side of the ball.
There are, and Hamp Fade, starting safety. You just heard it here first from Wil Hunter. That's the personnel change right there. Davion Prim going to be starting at cornerback. I'm
what
joking.
Happened to him? This is he's showing something. He's got some burst.
I don't know.
Full string running back.
The guy's Le'Veon Bell in spring practice, and all of a sudden, a week before the game started, hey, he's going to be a cornerback, by the way. Like, oh, sick, awesome. That's great to just get lied to in the spring. Whatever. Hey, you know what? Mel Tucker's a man of mystery, and if that's just another thing he wants to keep mysterious, who am I to argue? Because, like, look, And okay, like let's have this conversation now. Okay, we started micro with the Maryland game. Now I just want to start with like the widest blimp view of the program possible.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we're going to be on the same page here. I think a lot of people are on the same page, but it's still like there's still the whispers or maybe the shouts from the vocal minority of like, oh, we shouldn't have given him the $95 million extension. Like, oh, nice going. Wish you had D'Antonio still here. Like, I still think Mel Tucker is the guy to turn this around. Like, have you moved on that at all after what you've seen the first 4 games? Okay, so I figured we'd be on the same page there. But yeah, I mean, do you know what? I'm just gonna rip off something that I heard on the radio yesterday. This was on the Valenti and Rico show. They kicked off their show with this. Michael Valenti and Rico Beard. They do a radio show in Metro.
Never heard of either of them.
Well, we're going to steal something from them right off the top because, look, it's just like such a basic question to throw at you, but it's a good way to get an answer. Like, on a scale of 1 to 10, how concerned are you for the future of Michigan State football under Mel Tucker? And I would give it like a 2.5. Yeah. And that 2.5 as if this year's recruiting class completely collapses on itself like a dying star, you know? And then, like, he doesn't fire anyone in the offseason, but, like 2.5 for me is where I'm at with concern long term. Like, yeah, this year, believe me, that if you listen to any show this week, you know that I think this year is probably toast and maybe not going to end in a bowl game, but like long term, like the only way you get out of this hole that you're in is recruiting. Okay, well, who's probably the best recruiter that we could possibly get right now? Oh, he's already here in East Lansing. His name's Mel Tucker. So like that's kind of my whole point on it. If you wanted to add anything I didn't add or ease anyone's tensions that they have about the Mel Tucker era at Michigan State.
Sure. Let me give you 2 stats. One is mine.
I like stats.
One is from the illustrious Spencer Dial. We're dialed in.
Dialed in, baby. Let's go.
All right, we'll start with Spencer. You tweeted this out at Spencer_Dial on Twitter. Since Mel Tucker has become head coach of Michigan State, they've had 55 total transfers out. 55 players have left. Out of those 55 transfers, 5 of them have landed at Power 5 schools.
Okay. That's not a lot, Will. If I could be a math person, that's not a lot.
1 out of every 11 has been Power 5. Kaelon Gervin went to Kansas. Trevor Rosenthal went to Illinois. Chris Jackson went to Washington State. Let's see if I can get the other ones.
There was a punter.
No. Oh, I don't even know the punter. Not a
the Australian Flowers. Crawford went somewhere.
Did he go Power 5?
I think so. He was on TV somewhere.
Defensive back went to Duke. He was a special team. Dom Long went to Duke.
Dom Long. There we go.
Dom Long went to Duke, and the linebacker who punched out a kid at the frat when he was high or whatever. Luke Fulton went to Kentucky.
Space Spline, I think is who you're talking about. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
No,
not Chase Klein. Luke Fulton.
Oh no. Oh, I'm sorry. That's on me.
Yeah, Luke Fulton went to Kentucky, I think.
He did.
Devontae Dobbs is not playing football anymore. He was the best player in the 2019 class.
Doing the same thing we're doing right now.
Julian Barnett, who was a top 75 recruit in 2019, is the 4th or the number 4 corner. He's not even in the 2 deep for Memphis at corner. Like that was tough. Let me pull up my stat as well. Actually, here you go. Here's the full list of players that signed with Michigan State out of high school as consensus top 500 recruits, not 4 stars, not top 350, not top 300, top 500 recruits, and played meaningful snaps against Minnesota before garbage time. All right, ready for the list?
Yeah, I got my pen out.
Yep. Okay, first one is Keon Coleman.
Okay,
who is
I've heard of him.
The number 383 prospect in the class of 2021. Good player.
Yeah, sure.
And that's the end of the list, Matt.
Okay, got it. All right. Let me just cross off number 2 then. All right, gotcha.
Here's a follow-up to that. Ohio State.
I like follow-ups. Okay.
Ohio State, since 2018, has signed a total of 14 players ranked outside the top 500.
Okay, I didn't need to hear that. That's
Ohio State has signed with 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. 5 classes. They've signed 14 kids out of what? 100 and probably they sign big classes. They lose lots of drafts. So 120 kids probably. I didn't count the full, but let's say 110 to 120. 14. have been outside the top 500. Michigan State played an entire game with one player inside the top 500.
Yeah,
Matt,
like just
they're suffering from an issue of loft. Do you know what loft means?
yeah, loss of fun talent.
Lack of fun talent.
Sorry, lack of fun talent. Yeah, what
lack of effing talent.
To play like devil's advocate, like I get that, like, hey, Michigan State has a talent disparity, and that's
shouldn't be this bad.
It should, and that's the thing too. It's like, yeah, okay, Ohio State's that good, but like we also just got our doors blown off by Minnesota, who like I can't imagine has that wide of a talent disparity. So like, yes, I hear those cries because I'm one of the people crying it, right? Like I wasn't thrilled with what happened, on the micro level, but yes, as as we go back into our Goodyear blimp and do the full overview, like it's a stark reminder that it still is kind of a rebuild, and I don't think that's really excuse talk. I don't think that's loser talk. And like, yeah, hey, look, last year things looked really sped up. Peach Bowl, 11 wins. You won some great games, all your rivalry trophies, but like
got lucky a couple times.
A little bit of a mirage is what maybe we're starting to think. And I don't know, like I have a hard time saying like, oh, it was a fluky season, because like a fluke to me is like one play in a game. Like you don't win 11 games by accident. Like it's just
no. That was an 8-win team that got a little boost from having a megastar, right? You can have that in college football. You got an 8-win roster, and you have a Kenneth Walker. You have not that Trevor Lawrence had bad rosters, but like a Deshaun Watson, Johnny Manziel is a good example. 8-win roster, a special player gets you to 10, 11, right? Yeah. Which Kenneth Walker helped almost single-handedly a couple times get them from 8 wins to 10 wins.
Like we're going to see Mo Ibrahim for Minnesota go to Indianapolis off his back. Like we could just look at who he played last week for that.
So, that man is an oak. Each leg is an oak tree.
He's a human bulldozer.
Unbelievable.
It's crazy. He tears his Achilles and he comes back looking like Optimus Prime. It's unbelievable. Anyway,
it's absolutely wonderful. Honestly, it sucked to see it, but I was like, I'm so happy that dude's back, destroying people less than a year after tearing his Achilles, or just more than a year. Yeah. Anyway, it was an 8-ish win roster that had a superstar that really helped them elevate, some big time performances, couple good breaks, bad punt by Nebraska, right? Stuff like that. But it was a quality team. Yeah. This year's roster is worse. And you lost Kenneth Walker, who's a high-end pro, second-round pick, right?
Yep.
Other than that, everything else was like sort of lower down the level of what you lost. But they lost 6, 7 late round / fringe NFL players who had been around the program and had played a ton of football. And that matters. Jacob Panasiuk had a ceiling. It was limited. Still a good football player. AJ Arcuri, still a good football player. Kevin Jarvis, Connor Hayward, Speedy Naylor. They were just good football players that had experience, had been around, had scored touchdowns, had made blocks, had sacked the quarterback. Oh God, I'm totally blanking on his name. Defensive end number 89. Oh God, what was his name?
Oh, Beasley.
Another one, not a pro, but just like a good, solid college football player with good experience, right? And they're just kind of lacking that right now. Especially Xavier Henderson got hurt, Darius Snow got hurt, right? Those are guys that have been around, that are leaders, that are important pieces. Jacob Slade is like the 3 most important pieces of that defense in terms of like, lean on them. They're experienced. They're not going to be overwhelmed. They're going to know where to go. They're going to do their job. It may not be at the highest level, but it'll be at an adequate Big Ten level. Xavier Henderson, Jacob Slade, and probably Darius Snow after that. It's like, especially considering what is left at linebacker in terms of ability to run the scheme that they're running. So, and then you got Jaden Reed on the other side, miss a game, and then is clearly hampered against Minnesota. It's like, oh, great.
That's where like I struggle, because like I hate excuses, and hey,
I'll criticize Scotty. I'm happy to criticize Scotty.
Yeah. But after the Western game, it's like, okay, well, Xavier Henderson's gone, Darius Snow's gone. Those are 2 big players, but still, it's like, hey, like next man up. That's only 2 guys. You should be pretty good still, but like, wow,
it's just not there.
Well, then you lose Slade. And then Bogle goes down last game. Simeon Barrow goes down, and now it's looking like the opening scene of Saving Private Ryan. I mean, there's just bodies everywhere, and like
Angelo Gross is hurt. Like I know he hasn't had a good season. Angelo Gross was riding a bike against Washington while the offense was on the field. He had a big leg compression sleeve. Like he's hurt. Something is hurt.
So here I am just like contradicting myself, but like at what point do the injuries start to add up and it's like a legitimate, it's not an excuse anymore. It's a legitimate reason for why things are really this bad.
I don't think there's a reason for it to be this bad because there are still good football. Like this shouldn't be a MAC. It shouldn't look like a MAC team playing against a Big Ten team, which was what it looked like last week.
It did.
It shouldn't look like that. It should look like just a mediocre Big Ten defense, a below average Big Ten defense, not one that's like, oh man, this would be the fourth best defense in the MAC West, right?
Yeah.
It shouldn't look like that, which is what it looks like now. So it's not. I'm saying all this as a reason why I'm not concerned about Mel Tucker at Michigan State long term.
Mm-hmm.
His 2021 class was hot garbage because of COVID, because he signed late in February, because by time he started even recruiting on behalf of Michigan State, other teams had 10 to 12 players in their class. Michigan State had 0. It had to be built from scratch in a short amount of time with no visits. Right. And then
Zoom calls. Yeah.
Zoom calls is number 46 in the country, a terrible class, and half of it will be gone by the end of the season. Right. So you didn't even get that first group, like the first true Mel Tucker class in Michigan State. It was a class of 22. There's like 9 4-stars. Some of them have already seen the field. We've seen Van Summer and Mangum. We're going to see more of him. I've heard he's picking things up quickly. We're going to start seeing Caleb Coley, I think, eventually, unless he gets like banged up or something, you'll probably see him. There's guys you're going to start seeing from that class, but they're true freshmen, right? And that's sort of, we're in this point where
it's not ideal.
The 2019 class, if you go back and look at it, the hits, and this like just comes from that no top 500 recruit sign, like the hits are all lower, and it's fine to hit on Cal Halliday, but Cal Halliday was ranked where he was for a reason. He's limited athletically. He's not going to cover well. He does some things well. He's a solid player, but it's like, he's not going to be someone that's elevating you and having like, oh, Cal Halliday, the Bronco Nagurski Award, right? He's a good player, but he's not going to be the best defender, the linebacker leader of an all-world defense. He's just not that guy, especially the way the game is. Maybe in 2013 he could have, with the way the game was played and the way it's changed. But the 2019 class, the 2020 class, the 2020 class was just in bad, like general and bad in terms of rankings, but like your top player from that class, Ricky White, is gone. There's other players from that class that are gone. There's like 6 guys left from the 2020 class. And there's just no one here who's in their 3rd or 4th season with Michigan State contributing who was a well thought of recruit, because Henderson and Snow got hurt. And they were the 2 that were sort of the higher ranked guys. Yeah. And there's just nothing really behind it. So when the 22 class are redshirt sophomores, 3rd-year guys, and the 23 class are 2nd-year guys, and the 24 class are true freshmen, that's when you're going to have a good quality depth of talent, because there's how many 4-stars we got in this class? 11, something like that.
I think it's 11 less. Yeah, I think it is 11.
Right? So let's say they add like 2 or 3 more, add it to the 9 last year. They're going to bring in 22 4-stars in these 2 classes. Let's say they repeat that again, sign a top 20-ish class, bring in another 13. You're going to have 30 to 35 4-star and higher players that are 1st, 2nd, and 3rd year. And now you're starting to build some depth. Now you're starting to actually build a sustainable winner, and you can spackle as much as you want with the portal, but the portal's not a way to build a sustainable winning roster. Like there's a reason Ronald Williams isn't at Alabama anymore. There's a reason Amir Speed's out at Georgia. It's not because they're bad. It's because they're not amazing. Right? They're not great. There's no shame in getting passed over by a 1st-round pick who's a redshirt freshman, which happened to Amir Speed. Ringo at Georgia is going to be a top 10 pick, and he was just better than him. So he got to play last year. And the rest of the guys on that defense were all 1st and 2nd day picks. There's no shame in that. But it just means he's not a 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th round type player. He's a UDFA type player. He's good. Yeah. He's not great. You need a bunch of you need some great players. If you want to be consistently good, you need some guys who are going to be day 1, day 2 picks. And they just don't have it right now. They have a couple like fringe NFL guys scattered across the roster. And like, honestly, Keon Coleman is like the shining example of this. Like the one guy who's a top 500 recruit, the one 4-star-ish type guy signed by Michigan State that's actually playing is Keon Coleman, who you look at him, you're like, that's what that looks like.
Right.
That's what it's
Yeah.
supposed to be. Well,
Yeah.
now imagine there's 30 more of him, right? And he's not the only one. So that's what you're building towards, and that's going to take a couple years, especially because the 2021 class got wiped out the way it did by COVID.
Yeah, like short term bummed, long term like still optimistic over here. And like two quick things. Okay, so right now before everyone like just tweets or comments below. Okay, there are 14 commits for this class. 10 of them are 4-stars right now, but really you could bring it up to 11 if you add Ken Talley, the 4-star transfer from Penn State.
Sure.
I will take liberty in that. So yeah, as far as I'm concerned, there's 11 4-stars in that class. And also too, like I think that we're all learning a hard lesson on what the transfer portal really is. I compare it to like a scratch off lottery ticket where look, a lot of the times you're just going to scratch off $5. Hey, which is good. It's fun. Like Amir Speed, that's a $5 win. That's something nice.
That's a winner.
I know, but then last year, oh my God, you scratched off a $600,000 winner in Kenneth Walker.
Yeah.
And that's just not sustainable. Like, and I think that like we're all starting to slowly learn that. Maybe I'm one of the later people that learned this. Maybe I'm one of the earlier ones. I don't know. Everyone works at their own speed, but like, the transfer portal is not a complete overhaul, like plastic surgery. It's just like a Band-Aid for a few areas.
Spackle.
Yeah. Spackle. There we go.
It's a good way to fill in holes. And occasionally you hit a Kenneth Walker, and I still think Jacoby Windman is a really good player. I think he's been in a really tough spot because what's around him and just the focus put on him the last 2 weeks has been ratcheted up.
Yeah.
But those are both transfer ups. UNLV up, Wake Forest to Michigan State it's ACC to Big Ten, but like it's still kind of an up transfer in terms of program prestige. The last, I know Wake Forest has been good, but still, it's like when you compare the football, like okay, Michigan State's generally better than Wake Forest.
Let's be adults about it. Yeah, let's have a real conversation. Yeah, Wake Forest is not Michigan State. Yeah,
that kid who's just amazing for Florida State, the defensive end who came from Albany, right? And you look at him, like, okay,
yeah. Right. He
was missed out of high school. We missed this one. We screwed this one up. Those are the ones that seem to be the really impactful transfers, aside from the quarterbacks, because that's its own thing. Because there can only be one guy, and Justin Fields transfers sometimes. Yeah. The general, like the Chris Bogles, the Ronald Williams, the Amir Speeds, the Chester Kimbroughs, good high school prospects that just didn't pan out. There's reasons why they're in the portal. They couldn't get on the field because other guys were better. Doesn't mean they're bad. It just means that they weren't good enough where they were for the most part to get on the field consistently in the way they wanted. And so if you're building your roster with all those, it's just that's what you're going to get. That's kind of what Michigan State's got. They've got a handful of SEC guys who didn't make it, a handful of mid to low 3-star recruits, and a couple of Division II players.
Yeah, I know.
So
and here we are.
I'm not. So that's why I'm not worried about the long-term future. As long as the 23 class stays intact, which I think it will, and then you pulled a top 100 or top 200 kid from Miami in the 24 class 2 days after getting destroyed by Minnesota.
Right.
I still think Mel has juice on the trail. Like people like Mel, coaches like Mel, trainers like Mel, recruits like Mel. It's going to be fine. This year could suck. Like just make a bowl game. Let's get through it unscathed as possible.
Yeah, no, I hear you. And you know what? God, geez, we're 38 minutes in already. I didn't even check the time. Any final thoughts before I get into my 5 best bets that went absolutely atrocious last week? Do you
want to talk about Scotty at all?
I was trying to give him a day off on this podcast.
Well, what's been said? Like, what have you guys been saying? What have people been saying? I don't listen.
No, I understand. Like, look, I've pretty much said everything there is to be said possible about it. We're like, yeah, hey, some players are hurt. He's not working with like a perfect unit, but also at the same time, like, if you're making over $1 million, isn't it your job to notice that these players can't play in that scheme and then adjust accordingly, which you clearly haven't in the last year, and then it just works up to the thesis of he's going to be the fall guy eventually, right?
Yeah, so we're reaching a point where there may have to be a fall guy. They could turn it around and be a respectable unit, and then you're starting to feel confident. I'll say a couple things. I know it doesn't feel that way at all, but let me just say a couple things.
Yeah, go for it.
First thing, Pat Narduzzi's defense year 3 stunk.
Yes.
They did.
Yes, this is a good example. Yeah.
And I'm not at all, listen to me. I'm not at all saying that Scotty is going to turn it around like Narduzzi did, and Michigan State's going to be a defensive stalwart, and he's going to be one of the best defensive coordinators in the country like Narduzzi was. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that you get these weird in between years on a rebuild where the scheme is installed. Not the good new recruits don't quite know it yet. The guys still around are in theory let's face it, D'Antonio's worst class was his 2020 class, and the second worst one was probably 2019 in terms of hit rate, right?
Yeah.
So you got that to deal with. It's this weird sort of in-between bridge year, and especially after they're successful, it's like almost parallel to Michigan State under D'Antonio, because they were 9-2 going into Penn State with a chance to win the Big Ten or share the Big Ten with Ohio State in 2008, and then the next year they lost to Central Michigan, went 6-6. And gave up 42 to Minnesota, coached by who was, oh my God, I'm blanking, a really bad coach.
I won't have the name for you. Sorry.
Coach,
Jerry Kill. Let's call it Jerry Kill.
Not Jerry Kill. But
Jerry Kill.
Jerry Kill's a good coach. Anyway.
No, I know. He's fine.
They had a really bad, disappointing third year. The defense was a big reason why, and people wanted Narduzzi fired. So this sort of thing happens even to really good coordinators.
Yeah.
Now, as for Scotty, with that said, okay. So the scheme works if you have the right people.
That's what I keep hearing.
So you know who Gus Bradley is?
Yeah.
Legion of Boom defensive coordinator.
I was gonna say, where is he now? Shoot.
He's an assistant somewhere. He's a DC. He's a DC. Where the hell is he? He's coordinating somewhere.
Anyway, up right now. Colts.
There you go. Yep. He was the defensive coordinator for the Seahawks with the Legion of Boom, and then he was the Jags head coach when they were actually, I think, Marone had him good. He was bad there. And then he's just kind of been bouncing around. But that's the genesis of the scheme. It's going to play 2 or 3 man up top. They're not going to blitz a ton. They're going to cover, and they're going to stop the run without having to sacrifice, yada, yada, yada. The scheme works. When it's done right, the scheme works. So it's not like a total scheme issue. Yeah. The problem is it's not being played properly, and we don't know if that's because it's not being coached well, if it's not being picked up by the players. There's just some technique stuff that you look at. Chester Kimbrough and another defensive back are they're lined up on what is an obvious. It's going to be a switch release where they have to switch places and run around each other when the ball's snapped, or else they're going to crash into each other. It's designed that way. And instead of staggering like they're supposed to, so they don't run into each other, they're standing hip to hip. And you're like, great. Now you have to move extra distance to get around the guy that is going to pick you. Sweet.
Awesome.
So it's just stuff like that. It's like, is that a detail that's being missed, or is that just someone who's not that good at playing football? And I don't mean to pick on Kimbrough. You could pick anyone. There's a million different things.
Sure.
So that's something we just will never have an answer to. Is this being properly taught? Which I would guess it is, and it's just not being played well. Is the cushion issue? I said this to someone, because how many times have we seen a 10-yard cushion on 3rd and 7 and it's completed for 7 yards? I don't know. And I would assume that that's just a defensive back who's really bad at anticipating routes, seeing what's coming, being able to diagnose a play live and then make a play. That's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to be off. You're supposed to see okay, here's the break. Let me get in on it. It's no, they're a step late every single time. That to me is an ability issue. So that's one thing. That said, now we'll get to the part where I criticize Scotty.
Oh boy.
It's not,
Showtime.
I do think there's guys who are being sort of misused, I guess, or not being, let's put it this way. Guys who are playing a lot aren't being put in the best position to succeed based on their skill sets. And I think they're realizing some of it because they have tweaked some things. Against Washington, they ran zone 67% of the time against the pass. Against Minnesota, they ran man 70% of the time. You just clearly have a group that isn't well connected in the zone defense and pass defense, and that's why you get 5 busts for huge gains. And so I was encouraged by that change, but then you look at it, you're all right, our free safety, our quick safety, our small, undersized, athletic safety, quote unquote, got beat one-on-one by a tight end, not because physical matchup, because he just ran by him. All right, well, we can't man him up then. If he can't hang with a big, fat, lumbering 6'7" tight end, we can't man him up because he can't cover anyone. And that Angelo Gross, who's now hurt, and we'll sort of see what happens moving forward. So there's only so many things you can do. And like when Ben Van Sumeren is lost in coverage, and I promise I will get back to my point. When Ben Van Sumeren misses an assignment in zone or whatever, like let's stop asking players to do stuff they can't do.
Thank you. Right.
If
Right.
you have what you have, you have the deck you have.
Right. Yeah.
If your linebackers aren't great at identifying zones, being in it, it's because it's a weird thing in football, being in an open space with no one around you, trying to find someone to cover, playing zone pattern match defense. It's weird. You have to be able to identify route combinations and know, all right, this is where I got to go. It's not just stand there, chop your feet, and watch the quarterback's eye and break on the ball. That doesn't work. This isn't the 70s. It doesn't work. You can't just stand there, chop your feet, and break on the ball. Yeah. So it's a lot that goes into playing a good zone defense, and it's kind of clear they can't do that. So if you have guys who can't do that, stop asking them to do that. Like, let's maybe send number 13 on some blitzes. Let's get him running after the quarterback. He's big, he's fast, he's strong.
Mix it up.
Let's throw him at the quarterback a little bit more often. Let's do that with Halliday a little bit. Let's try some false pressures. Let's send a corner here. Let's try to take some risks. Like, let's stop asking guys who can't do an adequate job navigating coverages or staying with their guy to do that. Amir Speed can man up and hang with a lot of people. Ronald Williams can as well. Kendall Brooks can comfortably play in the box, right, and hit people. Like, let's lean on what guys can do and stop asking them to do what they can't do, because that's what the scheme dictates. I don't need to see Ben Van Sumeren trying to play hook to curl. He can't do it. It's fine. But if you got him on the field, if he's the best option, let's find something positive for him to do on 3rd and 7 instead of just
play to everyone's strengths. Just play to strengths.
Yeah, that'd be my biggest criticism. They know the personnel way better than we ever will. They know what they can do within the scheme more than we ever will. People ask me all the time, like, what would you do? I'm like, I don't know. I'm an idiot. Like,
I'm not the one making over $1 million to figure it out. That's my comeback all the time. Like, I ain't the one making 7 figures to figure it out.
Like, I know what I wouldn't do, and I wouldn't ask Ben Van Sumeren to diagnose a difficult route concept. Like, he's just it's not in his skill. I wouldn't ask Chester Kimbrough to guard a 6'4" slot receiver, because it's just not a spot where he's going to win. It's just not. So if that's me, I'm doing everything I can to put those guys into positions where they're more comfortable, where they're doing stuff that they're actually good at. And that's going to leave holes. It is. If you're blitzing more often, if you're bringing both linebackers more often, it's going to leave holes. You're going to take more risks. But to that, I say, what the hell's the difference? Can it get worse?
We'll see. We'll see.
So, all right. I just wanted to broadly talk about the defense a little bit, and Scotty. And I think there's certainly things that are being done not great, but it's also, it's like, you play the hand you're dealt. It's not a great hand right now. He could be playing it better. I think all the defensive staff could be playing it better.
No kidding. Yeah.
No, it's not going to be it's not going to be a good unit, but it shouldn't be this bad.
Well, speaking of bad, Will, last week I went 1-4 in best bets. Hey, still 13-12 on the season though. So that's right. We're still in the black, not by much, but we're still in it. And so, hey, 5 best bets, under 60 in MSU versus Maryland.
You're not in the black, by the way. You're losing to the VIG. You're at 52. You need to be at 52.9.
Okay, that's enough for you. Michigan -11 at Iowa. Why not? I don't trust Iowa to score more than 7 points this game. Over 50.5 in Georgia Tech at Pitt. That's right. What? This is like the 4th time this season I've picked a Pitt game this season. Iowa -3 at Kansas. That storybook has to end eventually. And Illinois +7 against Wisconsin. The Fighting Brett Bielmas. So if you want to fade that and go 5-0, those are the picks right there. So
do you want mine?
Yeah.
Do I have to stick college? I got a couple NFL ones I really like.
Let's do NFL. Yeah, no one's listening anymore at this point. Who cares? Let's do NFL. Yeah.
All right. I got Niners at home -1.5 against the Rams.
Okay, I like that.
Absolutely no sense if you're listening to this. When's this being published? Right now?
This will be on Thursday night. Yeah, I'll publish this on YouTube Thursday night. Yeah.
It's up to 4.5 now. I got it at 3 because I'm a super genius.
Okay, look at you, big brain over there.
Yeah, Bengals minus whatever it is. It's 4.5 now, so maybe. But yeah, Bengals minus the points tonight against the Miami Dolphins, because the Dolphins defense just played 90 snaps in 600-degree heat.
And Tua might have half of a brain. I
You
don't
don't know
know.
about
So,
Tua?
who's to
I
say?
got I got the Roadrunners meet -5.5 UTSA. Middle
Let's go.
Tennessee, big letdown spot after beating Miami.
Oh, sure. Love that, actually. Yep.
Let me see other ones that I like. I got like Florida State -6.5 against Wake Forest. Wake Forest heartbreaker, put a lot into an overtime game,
I
lost to
know.
Clemson, and Florida State's quietly just been good. Like they're good.
And I hate to see that. I hate to see
There's
that,
just
too. I
yeah.
like when Florida State was bad. That was fun.
It's more
Yeah.
fun when they're bad.
It's
And
great. It's great for the sport when Florida State is bad, and Miami too. Miami's taking care of their end of the bargain, but like Florida State needs to like simmer down over there.
it's funny. Like college football is better when Texas, USC, and Michigan are good. Like no, college football is
Nope.
better when Florida State stinks.
Correct.
Talking about
Yep.
the Knowles. Let
Talking
me
about
get
the
you one
ball.
more.
Yeah, please.
God, that was I took the over in Washington, UCLA. Don't feel awesome about it. Oh, I like this one. I got Ole Miss -6.5 hosting Kentucky.
Okay, I
Um,
like that actually a
Ole
lot too.
Miss was
Yeah,
kind of stumbling around drunk last week for parts of the
Uh,
game, but when they're like
yeah,
focused and good, they're whoever they're playing, someone from the MAC. But when they're
yeah.
locked in, like it's kind of they're good. They're really good, and I like Kentucky. I think Kentucky is actually pretty good. Um,
Ole Miss is great at playing down to their competition. Like
yeah, I
elite
think
at playing down to their
yeah, if
competition.
Ole Miss plays well, like they're going to beat Kentucky by 14.
Yeah, no doubt
So,
about it.
and I
Well,
think they play well because it's a conference game
sure.
at home.
Well, yeah, it's something to play for.
Yeah,
Yeah,
there you go.
yeah, yeah.
All right,
Well,
we did
this
almost
was
did an hour.
This is delightful. Oh yeah, the higher ups at Lockdown are going to absolutely love this. Yeah, I'm going to get a all
Whatever.
caps email I think tomorrow, being like, whatever happened to shows under 30 minutes, and I
Tough
don't
shit.
have an answer
Oop,
for them. I
I
don't.
cussed.
Oh. Hey, we almost made it the whole show. Wow, it's like blowing a perfect game in the ninth inning with 2
Dang it.
outs, 2 strikes. But hey, here we are. Can't
Gee
be
darn
perfect.
it. Fudge.
Yeah. Hey.
That's why
Hey.
David Blau
Similar.
got cut from the Lions because they
Yeah.
saw Hard Knocks where he's like, fudge. Like, we can't have this dude on our team.
And you know what they do? They ship him right to Minnesota to hang out with Kirk Cousins, who's the exact same. So they're like, I know just the spot for you, David
What a
Blau.
horrible quarterback room.
Hey, now
Just
Kirk Cousins
the
is my
lamest,
goat. Nope, Kirk
the
Cousins is my
lamest
captain,
quarterback room in the
my
history of
goat,
football.
the winningest quarterback room in the history of football. Kirk Cousins I will not accept Cousins slander on this podcast.
Fair enough.
Even though he's kind of earned it in a way. But hey, nope, Kirk Cousins, my goat. All right, on that note, hey, Will, go have yourself a great weekend, man. And same with you, everyone else. If you're even still listening to the show, Will, can you say a random word? I like to do this with guests when we run long. Can you say a random word?
No.
Okay. Tweet at me and Will the word no to let us know that you're still listening. You're not going to win anything. You're just going to get acknowledgement, and I'm just going to be really shocked that you are still listening. So tweet no at Will or me.
Don't
on
tweet
Twitter
the word no. Tweet
Yeah.
the actual drill tweet.
Oh, wow. That's for extra credit right there.
I believe it's pinned. I believe it's still pinned to his page. So the drill tweet of no, send that to Matt. Don't send it to me. I'm not going to see it.
You got it. Again, for no prizes. There's really no benefit to doing this other than just to make us feel a little better that someone actually out there listened for 53 minutes on this. Well, all right. Hey, on that note, everyone enjoy your weekend. Love you all. Go green. Toodles.